Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last 8-Bit Adventures podcast of the accursed year. And in true 2020 fashion, we lost my wonderful co-host, as always, Courtney Bolin, right at the top of the show.
Hey, everybody.
And I am your host, Sean Hayes. We're here again. Oh, hang on. Somebody gotta get banned right off the bat. Bots and chat trying to sell followers with bad grammar. Okay, so yes, last show of the accursed year 2020. We don't actually have a whole lot of news this week. It seems
well,
that
this,
in
Sean. To
between
be fair,
Christmas and New Year, like nobody's working. Nobody,
Sean, it's
and
the week
especially
of
this year.
Saturdays. It's the week of Saturdays. This
Yeah,
is how I've always described the week between Christmas and New Year's. Is most people are on vacation, are at home with their kids, with their family, whatever it may be. I mean, I've never actually gotten to experience it since I started working, but it's a week of Saturdays where every day just kind of blends into each other. And usually that's the only week of Saturdays that we get in a year. Uh, this year has been a year of Saturdays because everybody's been home the entire time. Um, but yeah, not too much
nope.
has happened because
So why don't
yeah.
we get right into that? We have 2 items. I just added one more.
Yes.
Uh, so here's our quick fire news, our very quick fire news to round out 2020. Courtney, would you like to
Yeah.
start?
I would, because something good came out of Christmas this year, besides, actually being able to see my family and such like that. But Disney Pixar released Soul, their new animated film on Disney Plus, and I got to watch it with our friend Heather. We ended up watching that day after Christmas together. Um, it's great. It's really great. It's it's an interesting take on I want to say the meaning of life, but that just sounds so deep for a children's movie.
Hmm. I, so I know from her post it. So I don't want to speak for her, but I
Yeah.
know since she posted about it, Heather, as a music teacher, felt a little weird since the
Hmm.
movie kind of had a reinforcement of those who can't do teach, um, which kind
Yeah.
of felt a little weird. But I also
Yeah, and I
haven't
thought
seen it, so I don't know. I'm just relaying
yeah.
a
Yeah,
thought process.
the everything um from the trailers, and that's all I will talk about because obviously I don't want to spoil it. Um but basically this guy who is a musician and middle school music teacher part-time, um and he ends up, let's say his soul becomes detached from his body. um he ends up dying, and it's the question of, like, his soul is trying to get back to his body, um because he has something important to do back on earth that
Mhm.
night.
Now, to
And
clarify, this
yes.
was all in promotional material for the movie.
Yes.
So this is not
Yes.
because
Like
we don't want to
him.
spoil anything.
No, no, and that's why I'm not telling you how soul was disconnected from body and
Yeah.
all of these other things. Um, but yeah, and it's basically him. He meets another little soul, and they kind of help each other navigate, I guess. But it's really very. There's these characters that you do see in the trailer. And they look like a Picasso line art. and they're really really trippy um to watch, but they're kind of like, oh hey, yeah, this is this and this is what's going on, and cool, you got that, awesome. um but it's definitely, I felt very interesting at the end of it. um it is heartwarming and it does have that nice Disney Pixar ending.
Hmm.
um but it definitely makes you think as an adult going back into it more, and it's like, well, how did that happen? Okay, yep, we're gonna have some, there's gonna be some thesis papers about that. um and yes, I've seen a bunch of different posts online, um of different musicians and artists in general, saying that the message of the movie was a little bit, could be skewed to those who can't do teach,
Yeah.
which is a little bit disheartening to see. But one thing that was very, very wonderful to see is it is almost entirely, when they're in the real world, um, it is almost entirely a cast of people of color, um, and a cat. But
Hmm.
um, but I think that that is amazing for representation. Um, there is there is a barbershop scene. I will not say what happens during it, but it is very accurate from what I've seen of other things like that and just that social construct. So it was really nice to see that put in there. Um, but yeah, so Soul is out on Disney Plus. There's also an adorable little short that is supposed to go before it called Burrow. And
Yeah, so that you can
ah,
actually watch separately.
yes, yes, you can watch it separately.
Hmm.
It's one of their little shorts though. And it is to a Bach piece that was originally written for oboe and then like transferred over to flute. And the only reason how I know that is because Heather actually had the sheet music for it right there and found
Yeah.
it before, as we were watching
Yeah.
it. But Burrow is absolutely adorable as well, and it's a really cute little companion short to go with that. So you can choose to watch that before, after, on its own, whatever. But that is also came out with the release of Soul.
Yeah.
But
All right. So,
are we ready for some nonsense?
Kentucky Fried Chicken, in its latest PR stunt, has announced
Hmm.
it's entering the game console race. Uh, that's right. They're making a video game console. They're working with PC manufacturers to get all sorts of high end equipment, including solid state like large capacity solid state hard drives, 4K output, um, and to have it be cross platform. Also, it's going to have a compartment that you put your chicken in to keep it warm. Uh, Madness. This is pure madness.
So, I mean,
Also,
I
it's
thought
it's going to be
KFC
made to
was.
look like a KFC bucket. It is bucket shaped.
So I thought KFC was like already diving off the deep end when they did the perfume and the scented nail polish and like those things. My only question with this console that's coming out, I literally do not care how it plays. My question is, what about the grease from the bucket and the grease from the chicken? Like,
That was brought
how
up
is
in
how is that cleaned?
I thought I can't remember which article I was reading. Um, but somebody was talking about it and how like they haven't announced the controller yet, but that like that is a concern. Is like if you're eating sort of greasy fried chicken. Um,
I'm not even talking about with the controller. I'm talking about when you get a bucket of KFC and that nice little rim at the bottom that just becomes greasy as the chicken sits in there longer. Like, it's like going to the movies and getting a bucket of popcorn. That little bottom couple of inches that just gets soaked in the butter because you get double butter and extra in the middle. Like, what is going to happen with that? Because I've gathered from the shape of the system that it's supposed to be able to just put your KFC bucket in it, which is wonderful, all fine and good. I'm 100% down for that. Like, give me something that keeps my chicken warm. Absolutely. But the grease in the system, like
Yeah.
grease in the
Also,
system.
n- no mention thus far of how you're gonna do cooling, right? Since game consoles, typically they'll use fans to do cooling, but like cooling is an issue that you have to overcome because components overheat.
Yep.
This has something that actively heats up outside of any normal PC components. Um,
Like, is this just like strapping a
so I
whole
don't know
bunch
if
of
this is going to be a
PS2
thing that's like
Slims together?
insulated separately. Um, it's weird, but it is happening. Like it's real.
But the thing is though, when I saw this, at first I thought it was a joke. And then I saw that it was coming to Asian markets and I was like, "Yep, that makes absolute sense. That makes absolute
There's
sense."
also
When you have to make a reservation at KFC for Christmas Day in certain Asian countries,
yeah.
absolutely I can see this happening.
They also have not released a price yet. Um, there's wild speculation on what the price might be based on the components, but nobody knows, and like nobody knows if this is going to be like a limited run. You know, my guess it would be because if it's likely going to end up just being a promotional thing, um,
Yeah.
which case maybe it is at a competitive price. If it's just if it's going to be 10,000 units or something,
Yeah.
and KFC's willing to take a hit. Uh, but based on components, the theory is $2,000. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's so weird. Like, I don't understand. I don't. I really don't.
Yeah, because back in 2016, KFC made finger licking good nail polish.
Yeah, they've been doing
Um,
really weird products
yeah,
uh for publicity. And this is by far kind of the weirdest thing.
I don't know.
And actually,
It's
oh right, yes. Uh former co-host Josh York points out the Colonel Sanders dating sim. I think that also ranks up there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a thing too. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Um so hang
It's
on. I'm going to
just
try and add an image of the
ugh,
console into the stream here.
ooh, yeah, because it's just like it's funny that like my question isn't about how will it run. My question isn't
Yeah, there we
about
go.
like this isn't a question of will it run well, what will any of that. No, I don't. That is literally the last thing on my mind. They're basically making a custom PC build, but what about the grease? Like, is the controller gonna have like special pads that you can like wipe your fingers on? Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm
So
like,
looking
as I
at this,
happen to have my controller right here.
so I have an
Like,
image up on the stream right now. And it looks like uh a toaster. Like it looks like it has like a toaster bay up top.
hmm yep.
And that is not
Well,
where I
because
want
you have to
that's
be
not
able
where I
to
want
pick out your
food to
chicken.
be. I want it to be on the bottom. And I want electronic components above it so that if stuff leaks, it's not going down below.
Uh-huh.
This
Hence
is a
why my
disaster
question
waiting.
about the
Here's the thing.
grease
I don't think anybody who buys this
is going
is
to actually
going
use it.
to buy it for playing games on.
No.
Because they also haven't mentioned like any games that are in the lineup for it.
Yeah.
So who knows?
No, no,
Like
it's
it
gonna
might say
come preloaded with their
cross-platform.
dating sim.
Like, oh, oh no. What if KFC then announce like it decides to just make a whole series of Colonel Sanders based games? But then it would be
I
cross-platform
mean,
though. So who knows? Maybe
yeah.
I mean, in theory, like if it's if it's just using PC components, uh what if it's like the ill-fated Steam machine and it just runs Steam
Yeah.
and you play all your Steam games on it.
But again, I just yes, Sean, after seeing the pictures, like that was my one and only question was not how good is this system going to be? It is what about the grease? You know? Cuz I love KFC. Really do. Never have been able to ever have enough of it in my life because I've never lived close enough. And
Yeah.
and,
This is just
what
weird.
I mean, it is finger licking good, but I don't want my finger licking goodness to be dripping down and causing a grease fire.
Yeah.
Come on, KFC.
I'm gonna show it one
I
more time. Now look at
it's
that. It's even
just
so all of the iconography is red, like
mhm.
KFC red.
Yep.
And I was joking in the chat, as we know, red makes things go faster.
Red also makes you hungry.
Does it?
Yes.
Hmm, interesting.
Yep. Yep.
Whatever.
Yep.
Okay. So enough of that. I'm gonna remove that. Okay.
Yeah. That's
So that's it
just
for the news. I mean, like I
mhm.
said, there was not a lot. And I even think that the reason why the KFC console is gaining traction is because of the fact that it's a slow news week. Um, However, we do have a bunch of stuff for our deep dive, so let's take a look at that. So first off, uh, so our deep dive is going to be in two parts. The first part is we're going to take a
Yes.
look backwards into the past, and then the second part we're going to take a look forward into the future. Uh, so first off, let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of 2020.
Looking at this list, it's really hard to really like to genuinely believe that these things all happened in this last year.
Right? So I'm just gonna go through the list
Yeah.
and then we can talk about stuff as it comes up.
Uh-huh.
So let's start with the good things.
Mhm.
So we got two uh actually we got three large scale D&D books.
Yeah.
We got Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, the official Critical Role campaign
Yep.
setting. We got Mystic Odysseys of Theros, which has kind of the best alt cover art. Um, in fact,
And then we got Tasha's.
oh
Ooh.
right, so we
I
got
don't think
four books. This right here, it's so shiny it reflects. Like that is
Yeah.
by far the best alt cover art.
uh
Um, so we got Rhyme of the Ice Maiden, Rhyme of the
mhm.
Frost Maiden, sorry, and
Yes.
Tasha's.
Yeah.
So we got four books this year. Um, that's
That's
a
a
lot.
lot of content.
I mean, we
That's
got
like
two campaign settings,
that's a lot of content.
an adventure
That
book,
doesn't
and a
even
content book.
and that doesn't even include like I know D&D Beyond released what was it, The Big Sick or something? A different adventure
Yeah,
um
they did that.
for free at the
Also,
towards the beginning of COVID and all of that.
we kind of got like the short-lived um, sort of project with Riot, where they had um, oh, what was it? Their League of Legends
Oh yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What
Where
was
they
it?
had like
Bilgewater.
Misfortune and
It was something with Bilgewater, I think. because it was all pirate
Yes.
themed. It was
Yes.
based on their
I
card game that came out.
Was that seriously this year?
Yes. Yeah. I didn't think it was big enough to include in the show notes, but because I wanted to pick like the biggest things.
Yeah.
So yeah. Uh
Just so
yeah.
much.
And Wizards of the Coast showing up basically in every category. So that
Yeah.
was the best to come out of Wizards of the Coast. Uh
Yeah.
Animal Crossing, New Horizons, probably the breakout game of the year. Um like it
Little
had
did
just
people know that would be the only way they would be able to
it
travel.
was kind of the perfect like everything happening in 2020 was the perfect storm for Animal Crossing to be even more popular outside of like its traditionally casual audience. Um like everybody got into Animal Crossing and you were seeing like all sorts of projects and streams going on with it. Um like I mean the Biden campaign was like basically doing like campaigning stuff within Animal Crossing to the point that Nintendo had said no, like you can't do this anymore. Like please stop using this for political purposes. Like
I don't follow Animal Crossing that much.
yeah.
Because yeah. Because reasons. But hearing that is just absolutely wonderful. Just
Yeah.
makes my day. Like, can we just put that in the good is politicians in gaming?
Well, so that instance
Well,
it was poorly
no,
done.
but AOC streaming, Among Us and other
Actually,
things like that.
I forgot to add that, but let's add that is
Yeah.
yeah, AOC streaming Among Us. If you have not watched that stuff, regardless of how you feel about her politics,
Yeah.
although they do basically talk politics during that because she plays with other legislatures or
But
legislative representatives,
which is
both
just
from the
amazing.
U.S. and abroad as well. Um, but then to see just playing Among Us, especially, is a very interesting game for them to do because it's all sort of manipulation and negotiation and wordplay and
Mhm.
convincing people.
It's interesting watching her try to lie.
Yeah. And also the fact that like she jokes that the only task that she's really good at is swiping the credit card. Um, that the only one she's got down is swiping the credit card. Uh, so yeah. Hero Forge 2.0 is we got their
Yeah.
Kickstarter and it launched.
Mhm.
Like it's now full release, so you can get your little full color minis. And they're
Yeah.
actually good. Which that was the big thing for me was it was really wondering what the color quality was going to be like.
Yeah.
Disney Plus launched. That's kind of a big deal. Um,
Again, I can't believe it's s-
Also, we went to Disney.
yeah, we did.
That happened this year. Is we got back right before everything started shutting down.
Yup.
So we got to go to Galaxy's Edge, and you can see in the background there's a little
Yes,
Coke
there.
bottle,
I'm like your Coke bottle that you
a
had
little
to make
Coke
sure you
bottle.
got. Mhm.
You have your Porg.
As I say, my porg is still on my walker, so
Yep.
he's still there.
Um, so we got Animaniacs, like that finally
Yeah.
came out.
Yup.
Mandalorian season 2 is a big deal. Um, and then just kind of across the board, sort of in relation to the Black Lives Matter movement, is
Mhm.
a big push from
Dev
POC
teams in general.
creators.
Yeah.
Um, like in the streaming front, on the tabletop RPG front, um, writers and everything, just pushing forward. There's still a lot of work to do, um, but at least it's better than before. Granted, it's still not where everything needs to be, and there's still a lot of work to do. But it
Nope,
led
that's
to
not working right.
projects like Into the Motherlands. Um,
I don't know why it's orange.
it led to basically the the roundtables at the D&D
Mhm.
live celebrations. Um, and it led to, so Twitch, for example, for a while was showcasing um, streamers that are people of color uh, on the front page and like using their platform and that stuff to help promote um, and get
Yep.
viewership out there. Um, so, granted, basically after all the protests started to die down, like over the summer, a lot of the support also died down. So, uh, now's the time um, that if you have heard of any folks that are in those fields, um, even just giving some views, on Twitch or YouTube,
Likes,
um,
comments,
yeah, engagement,
yep.
engagement helps. So, um,
Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Twitch if you can, you know, even yeah, but again, even just any kind of engagement,
mhm,
likes, shares, a single
yeah,
comment of you guys,
um, because
it's good.
I'm just gonna echo a sentiment that I heard a lot um, when folks were talking about streams and stuff is uh, a common thought was where are so like basically when everything was happening was everybody wanted folks for projects and there wasn't enough time to do everything that they were being asked to do.
Hmm.
But they said, where are you going to be in a year? Um, and I don't know, we keep losing Courtney. Um, so the important thing is, if you're really serious about getting this talent for projects, is keep them in mind. Down the line. So like if you have a like if they weren't available when you were working on one thing, keep them in mind for the next thing. Or if you had to shelve your project because of 2020 and when you come back to it. Um so yeah.
Yeah. I
All right.
I am still here for you folks. I give up with video. My computer and connection does not like this video or me doing
Okay.
video for some reason. It's hashtag 2020ing.
Santa,
Um,
Santa didn't bring Courtney a new laptop, so
no, no, because honestly, my laptop works perfectly fine, except for Discord.
hmm,
But
okay.
yeah, like this
All right.
this happens a
Well, we
lot
we
of the
have
time
your
when I'm not
lovely
on Discord.
headshot up there, so.
Yeah. But
All right. So that's
yes.
kind of the good.
Mhm.
All right, let's get into the bad. So this is stuff that's disappointing, but it's not, horrifically awful. Uh
Yes. It
which we'll get into later. Or this is awful but like embarrassing. So,
yeah.
so the bad, I mean, obviously at the forefront
COVID.
is coronavirus and COVID. Um just the cancellation of so many conventions. Um
Oh yeah.
and I was
I was
actually
supposed to
looking
go to
and
Gen Con this year.
what was interesting, so yeah, I mean, you had Gen Con. Um, so we had talked about last January. So this was before COVID had really started picking up. Was
Yep.
Sony had backed out of E3,
Yeah.
uh, and then it turns out everybody had to back out of E3.
Yeah.
So it was
E3 was
almost like,
canceled.
was that a portent of things to come? Um, but yeah, so basically, like
No, I
every
think Sony
convention
just
getting
still doesn't
canceled.
play well with others.
Um, every convention getting canceled just because you cannot have that many people. Like
Not
the logistics are impossible.
with how many people that I mean, because like, so I had already pre-ordered my tickets for Gen Con. We already had parking paid for, and we already had the hotel room because we had booked stuff in November.
Yeah.
So like thinking about just the pre-sales for these conventions, like there's no way you could safely socially distance at all in any of these kind of situations. So like it's bad, but I'm very glad with how many of these conventions have said, like, for me, like, I have tickets for 2021 Gen Con if we're able to do it. I have parking paid for already because they just said send us this form, it'll roll over, and like thank you for not wanting a refund. um and that's what a lot of them did, is they just rolled it over until next year and said, listen, we're going to try and get this under, try and get this under control. Hopefully next year we'll be able to do it. um and so a lot of conventions and a lot of other events like that were able to do that, because there was
Yeah.
just no way to safely be able to do it.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
there's no way that you could do New York or San Diego Comic Con.
oh no.
I mean, and then with what we learned with basically the second wave is like you could not do BlizzCon.
Yeah.
So I mean, we accurately, predicted that they were going to cancel ahead of time, and they did.
Yeah.
Um, Also, was probably the smarter thing for them anyway. As we said, like they didn't really have a whole lot of news outside of World of Warcraft launching a new expansion, but this would have been post. I guess technically it was pre-expansion launch if they had gone through with it. Um, I would say that if they had decided to do BlizzCon for whatever reason, um, we wouldn't have gotten Shadowlands this year because it was already delayed like several months due to
Yeah.
COVID. Um, Also related to that is the number of films and shows that got delayed. In some cases, like a year later.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I mean, the fact that uh, we were supposed to have a Black Widow movie, uh,
Yeah.
7 months ago,
Yeah. I wanted
and we won't
that.
get it for another five,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes down to that, I mean, cuz there was so many people, I mean, and there are still people who are saying like, cuz Hollywood completely shut down.
Yeah.
Everything completely shut down. And not just Hollywood itself, but the entire film and movies and TV shows and like everything just completely shut down. There's no anything. Um and even now that they're coming back, it's coming back in entirely different ways. People are being tested constantly if they're working. Um, they're being like extremely confined to, their, I want to say their recording bubble or their shooting bubble.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean,
It makes me
because
wonder if the Mandalorian had an advantage since many of the characters are in helmets.
possibly,
You know,
possibly, yeah. Um, it also made me think of way back when this first started. There was a Big Brother house that was
right?
shooting. That was so intense because they knew everybody there was obviously not infected. And I remember reading articles about the producers saying like, okay, how do we break it to them that there's a global pandemic
Yeah.
that is killing people?
Yeah. And
Uh,
congratulations. Now you can't leave.
yeah, now
This
we
is no
can't.
longer a fun show. This is now for your safety.
Yeah, this.
You're here forever. Uh yeah.
But
We laugh,
yeah,
but
it's
yeah.
it's just it's taking a look at these industries and just seeing how differently everything has had to change how it goes,
Yeah.
um because of this. And it's not like, you know a school and one kid gets sick with a cold and eventually it goes around to everybody and then it goes around to the community and then it's out. It's like that's not how
Yeah.
this was, and we're trying to make sure that that still doesn't happen. And so with that, you have different things get shut down and then reopened and then shut down again, and
Well,
all of
and
these
so
other
here's an
things.
interesting thing is for stuff and even stuff that would have been online anyway.
Mhm.
Um would have some things like uh Torch, which was going to be one of Wizards of the Coast new shows by Chris
Yeah.
Perkins. That's been shelved. Um, basically, and the primary reasoning is um, because everybody's now working from home. Um, is Chris has said like he does not have enough of a stable internet connection, or it's not good enough for him to do whatever it is they need to do to support
Mhm.
doing that stream.
And
Um,
that's the tough part too, is we've realized that internet is a needed resource,
yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If anything, is this has shown how bad our internet infrastructure is in the U.S. Um,
Yeah.
and why it probably. Sorry, I just had a wife drive by. uh, that it probably should be a utility
Uh-huh.
and probably should have been categorized as a utility long before then. However, I don't want to get down that rabbit hole because that's a whole thing that I believe we've talked about before.
That's a whole other ball of twine that we're not touching
Yeah.
tonight.
Um. So and the rest of the stuff is kind of just underwhelming things. So Ducktales not getting renewed for season 3, despite it,
Yeah.
being really good. Uh, Dark Crystal not getting renewed after it won awards. Um,
Yeah, that was odd to me.
Pokemon
Like,
DLC was just not
ugh,
great.
I haven't touched it.
Twitch things getting shut down, likely because of DMCA. Um,
Mhm.
and basically,
A
from
lack
what
of
I
a launch
understand,
lineup.
is Xbox the new Xbox consoles. Like, I mean, they sold well, but like that and the PS5 like have been hit with shortages,
Oh
right?
yeah.
But also for Xbox in particular, a lack of a strong launch lineup, which is not necessarily new, especially for Xbox, but it's the fact that they had almost really nothing new to
Yeah.
appeal to new gamers. Um, so interestingly enough, like even during the launch month for PS5 and Xbox, Switch still outsold them. Um, which seems unusual. Which I mean, that'll happen when you have shortages, right?
Yeah.
Because the demand is there for PS5, but they can't meet
Oh
demand.
yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah, demand is absolutely there.
so
But
all right.
speaking of the PS5,
Speaking of that,
let's let's
let's get into the
get over.
ugly. Right
Yeah.
off the bat, trying to find a PS5 that is ugly. There are folks out there. It has gotten bad enough with console scalpers that there are people putting up fake listings of consoles for outrageous prices on Amazon with all sorts of disclaimers that say this is not a console. This is just an image of a console. If you buy this, all you will receive is a photo of the console. Um, Designed to fool
Oh
algorithms
my
that and bots
gosh.
that scammers use to just mass buy consoles uh, at base price, or even now like at outrageous prices to then
Yeah.
resell at an even higher margin.
Yeah.
Um, like that's where we're at now with this stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's just, I'm sorry, but like, no. No.
yeah. Warcraft 3 Reforged. Remember that whole debacle where like the cutscenes in game look worse than they did when it originally came out like
Oh, that's right.
almost 20 years
Yes.
ago.
Where
Uh
it was literally, this is literally ugly.
Comparing it side by side, it was like, yeah, that somehow the quality got worse instead of like, even if they just left it alone, it would have looked better than it currently does. And that's bizarre, especially for Blizzard. Um, Wizards of the Coast being Wizards of the Coast, all sorts of PR gaffes this year, from um, leaked documents coming out, and notices from former employees of just their
Mhm.
treatment, um, as minorities. um, that basically we just a reaffirming that Wizards of the Coast has a management problem, um,
Yeah.
and that we don't necessarily know for sure as consumers, but it seems to be that there is a culture there where management kind of thinks one way and people are either afraid to speak out against it within the company, um,
Mhm.
or they don't have the capacity to.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's been
but yeah, it was a number of things.
yeah,
So one of which, so Combat Wheelchair by Sarah Mustang,
which I think is
and the
amazing.
backlash over that, and the fact that Wizards like could not get their head out of their butt and just like back it.
Yeah.
Even just like not even providing like say, yeah, we're gonna put this in our book or whatever, because that's not what she wanted. Because she wanted to actually be compensated for it. Uh, but just saying like, guys, knock it off. You know,
Yeah.
um, I mean, when you have to rely on major properties like Critical Role,
Yeah.
to support the stuff and apply pressure to Wizards of the Coast to actually do something about it, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, and having seen it in use, I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, I've seen like ideas for things like this before, but I'm like, now actually being able to have it in game, dude, yes.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Oh, and just the rampant sexism and ableism
Oh yeah.
surrounding that.
Oh yeah. Oh
People
yeah.
uh, trying to explain game design to someone that works on the Witcher RPG,
Yeah.
is
This
the
is a
Witcher
family friendly
tabletop RPG.
stream. This is a family friendly stream, so I can't tell them what to go and do.
Yeah,
Um,
they
yeah.
can go pound sand is what they can do.
Yes.
Kick
Yes.
rocks.
They can
Um,
they can eat a bag of goodies for the traveler.
sure. Uh, so kind of a weird
Yes.
one and embarrassing one is when Indivisible sort of surprise launched on the eShop and the dev team didn't know. So it turns out it was like not the latest build and there was stuff missing and bugs. Um, and then like 6 months later, the developer team, basically the guy in charge of that company, a whole bunch of allegations against him, and everybody quit, and the company imploded. So that game's not ever gonna get finished. Like that whole bunch of extra content that they were supposed to do, that is just not gonna get done.
Yeah, which is sad.
Yeah.
Which is
That actually
very,
it
very
did
sad.
happen to a couple studios this year, for various reasons, but that was one where it imploded due to, um, the owner, being a horrible person. Almost like that's a theme of people in charge not being good. Uh,
Yeah.
which
No.
brings us to our last one is Cyberpunk's launch.
Just do we really need to say more?
It's just a case study in what not to do from a of doing all of the wrong things from a marketing standpoint and somehow
Mhm.
getting away with it. Like abusing your reputation, um,
Yeah.
to pass off a product that is not ready. Um, and that's, completely sort of divorcing it from, caving to public pressure and stuff like that, and trying to appease investors and everything. Um, but just that is not the way to launch a game.
Mhm.
Bad.
Absolutely.
And that's going to be a case study, I feel like, for business students. Uh, you know, maybe next year, even probably, since there's now lawsuits from investors over that.
And I don't blame them.
Yeah. So
And
it was a wild year.
hope wait, and hope that the judge isn't a gamer.
Likely not, but
I mean, who knows?
but so yeah, and this is not even talking about personal stuff like Megan and I had a baby.
Yeah, you did. I'm an auntie.
That's
Auntie, which is different from aunt, you know.
that's like
You made a
completely
human
upended
being.
in the middle of the pandemic. So completely
Yes.
upending everything.
Yeah, man,
Uh
that was crazy.
yeah. But also missing out on paid uh parental leave,
Mhm.
which is a bit sad. So, but
To be fair, you
yeah.
would have missed it if he'd come on time or if he'd come, when he did. So,
I mean, yeah.
so
I mean, he was, he wasn't super early, but
like 2 weeks. That was it.
it was a little less than 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, he was about a week and a half, so it wasn't that
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
So, but
But
yeah,
yeah.
a wild year,
Hmm.
absolutely wild year.
Hmm.
And as Driz and Josh have said in the chat, a wild decade, the decade of 2020.
Mm.
um, we're gonna see. It's like one of those things where, like, if each year was like a document on the computer, right? So like
Hmm.
you have a document that's, you know, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 14, 15, 16. Then you get to 2020, it's a folder. Yeah. Like so like each decade is a folder. So you have like
Yeah.
the 2010s and in there you have one document each,
Hmm.
of 2010 through 2019. You get to 2020,
It's its own folder.
so 2020 has a folder of the 2020s, and then within that is a folder for 2020 itself.
Oh, yes. It
Uh
reminds me of the meme of God talking to the angel. And it's like, okay, did you get things all set up for the 2020s? Wait, you mean 2020? No, 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 the decade. Oh, yeah. No.
or just, if we're talking about like our Disney trip,
Yeah.
just like talking about pins or something, and then, just
Mhm.
the meme of like, I was there, Gandalf, 3,000 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some pin trading groups are talking about like wanting to what the changes are going to be with pin trading
Yeah.
in
Listen,
parts.
listeners out there, I fully expect to see that Lord of the Rings meme from all of you when referencing anything that happened like in
In the before
2019.
times. Mhm.
Especially now, especially when we've gotten past 2020. It's just be like there was an era, a whole era in one year. Um so yeah. All right. So enough talk about the past. Let's talk about the future. Moving forward. So we have so looking back through the show notes. So number one, we didn't have show notes for our sort of last episode of 2019 slash
Mhm.
first episode of 2020. And then I sort of skipped through the episode. We didn't do resolutions, so we're gonna change that. We're gonna do resolutions this time, and now we'll actually have a written record of it, so we can come back to it
Yes.
uh, for 2021. But also, I want to talk about just a little bit of schedule change. So I know um, Tales of Jamora, we haven't been doing it just because of difficulties getting people together because we can't, uh, and then playing online because it doesn't work for a lot of folks. Um, so until Tales of Jamora comes back, every Friday night I will be doing a second 8-Bit Adventures plays. So we'll be doing 2 game streams a week.
Woo-hoo.
When it does finally come back, is 8-Bit Adventures plays will be on the off weeks, so there will always be a Friday night stream. Um, and this will be late enough that I can do it when everybody else has gone to bed here in the house, because that's what I got to base my schedule around. Um,
Mhm.
but since Theo will be starting daycare soon, um, get back getting back into a groove, more regular schedule for everything. Um, and yeah, so hopefully potentially getting more streams back on the schedule now that we're all kind of getting into a rhythm. Knock on wood that that nothing awful happens and we go into like full lockdown again. Uh,
Yeah, I mean,
so
it's not a rhythm like it was before,
yeah,
but we're getting into some sort of rhythm.
yeah,
We're starting to make music again.
yeah. Um, so I think I'll start with my
Okay.
resolutions because I don't have very many. I just have three.
Yep.
um, so first up is I've had this on Questlog for goals, but I want to finish recoloring Chapter One comics in 2021. So this means I got to do about 70 recolors. so so that means I will
A little
likely
more
have
than
to
one
have
a
a
week.
couple weeks where I do a batch of them. Oh, so Driz is asking, is it possible to occasional retro gaming? Glad you asked. So we will see a return of Super Saturday, um, where first Saturday of every month, uh, after this month. Um, so maybe I'll do it second Saturday in January, since we already kind of figured out
Since this Saturday is
the
the
schedule
is
for
the
this
first
week.
Saturday.
Yeah. um, so to get back to doing Super NES games, um, I know now that they have Donkey Kong Country 2, which is quite possibly one of the best Super NES games on there and one of my favorites. I'm definitely interested in playing that. Saying mentioned Mazen Saga one time. I don't know. I'm not super big on Genesis games. I mean, there's a couple that I found really interesting, but I also don't have access to them. Because they'd have to be available on Steam, on Epic. But I'm not enthusiastic about anything on Epic, just because of how the controllers work on there, uh, or on the Switch, um, just because of how my capture software works. Um, so there is that. Uh, and I don't have a Sega Genesis, so it's not like I could hook it up and do all sorts of weird stuff in there. But Super NES and NES games, um, yeah, will be an option. Um, so yeah, that's also something where, um, like once a month, I might be able to add another stream, like during the week or something.
Hmm.
Um, maybe like Super Sunday or something like that. But it'll likely be Saturday. Maybe do like an afternoon, like prior to 8-Bit Adventures plays. Do Super Saturday.
Hmm.
Do like 2 hours of something there. Because we
Yeah.
could do a Link to the Past, Donkey Kong with the Donkey Kong Country series. Excuse me. Um,
So many options.
yeah, there's quite a few options. I mean, there's still Breath of Fire. Still got to finish that. Trying to think of what else. Wait, they don't have Kirby's Avalanche, which is great. But it's just a clone of there was a Sonic puzzle game that was the same thing basically. Um, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. So finish recoloring. So
Hmm.
that basically that means is I would love to actually get an 8-Bit Adventures book out like by the end of 2021, and available for purchase. Um,
Ooh.
also, I want to consistently up social media presence, on Facebook in particular, um, so that people are actually seeing content and seeing posts and stuff. Um, I have made up a schedule, basically upping the posting to 5 a day from like maybe one or two each week. So huge increase in post schedules. So if for whatever you start seeing a lot more posts, um, that'll be why. Um,
Cool.
but it is going to be on a schedule. So it'll be stuff like comics, reminders for things.
Hmm.
Basically, when like podcasts go live, when the vods are up, when they go up on YouTube, I'm going to start actually posting things to YouTube more frequently, and remembering to post them to YouTube. Um, it's just, we get almost no engagement on YouTube, so it's not a huge. And YouTube is just so unfriendly to independent creators right now. It's
Yeah.
not a huge focus. It's mostly there for archival purposes and to give people another option if they want to view the video um, format for things. Um, and then lastly is to resume Tales of Jamora and Berkshire Bites. These are both COVID dependent. Tales of Jamora because we all have to get together in the TV station, and Berkshire Bites because one, my wife has to be willing to do it, and two, restaurants have to be open for us to go to, and and like it has to be safe to go in and sit down and eat there. Um, and
Yeah,
it's got
because
to work
carry
with
out
our
isn't the
schedule
same.
with you know like for us to potentially like get a babysitter
Hmm.
or take Theo,
Yeah.
you know. So, uh,
Yeah.
that's it. Those are my resolutions. Not exactly rocket science here. Um,
Hey, it's keep them simple, you know?
actually, and to keep up with Habitica for a full year. That'll be another
Hmm.
resolution because that is doing pretty good at keeping me on track for stuff, or
Good.
punish me for when I don't.
Yeah.
All right,
Cool.
Courtney, how about
Yes.
you?
So, mine are also kind of pretty straightforward. As I've talked about before, I'm still in grad school. So this should be the year that I am able to graduate, um, barring any complications with my internship because COVID. Um, but it's so I should be graduating this summer. Um, which I will be very, 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 very happy to finally be done. Um, but that is my first goal is just graduate. um, the next one is much more gaming related. I'd like to stay a little bit more consistent with my gaming. Play a little bit every day or a few times a week as opposed to maybe twice a month. And I actually want to play the games that I have that I really want to and just stop looking at them like a pretty pie cake that I'm never going to eat. Um so I think it's that whole like yes, it's like I have a bunch of books and I haven't read them all and I keep buying more books even though I have the ones sitting on my shelf. The same thing happens with my games. Um and so I really want to be able to actually be playing the games that I've been really excited to be able to get and play. Um and so that's that's really my big one. And then yeah, being able to get back to Jamora and honestly seeing all of you guys again. um because that's just yeah, it's very COVID dependent, and if we didn't share the studio space with somebody with like the rest of the public television people, we could probably do some sort of setup, but it's just not something that's feasible right now.
Yeah,
um and then I thought it was interesting because it came up on my Facebook memories today, that my I do know what my resolution for last year was. Um, it was to reduce self-depreciating humor use. Um, yeah, and I think I've done okay. Um, on that, there's still some times, but I actually kind of want to keep keep myself in that positive mind frame.
positivity.
Yes, yes, got to go into that.
Yeah.
So,
Also, I forgot one.
uh huh.
Is I would like to. I don't know how likely this is, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Uh, to put a very, very rough first draft together for a Tales of Jamora campaign book.
Do you need my notebook again?
No, no, no. So this is
Okay.
I have all sorts of notes that I'm putting together.
Okay.
And patrons. uh, have noticed that I've been putting custom subclasses
Yeah, you
that will
have.
go in the book up on Patreon for $2 and up patrons. Um, so that's a sneak preview of sort of an alpha version of these subclasses. So obviously, I will want to do playtesting before, um, obviously before there gets to be any sort of like editing that goes in.
Yeah.
But
No, come on, just put it out like we didn't play test this at all.
that doesn't really work for tabletop stuff.
I
Um,
know.
yeah. You get shredded because even Matt Mercer gets torn apart for his custom subclasses.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so a lot of these. So there's also going to be a lot of changes to lore and locations. Um, because a lot of Tales of Jamora I've been working on and evolving over like a decade. Um, and I've done a lot of real hard thinking about it, especially over the past year.
Yeah, you've
Just
been doing a lot of edits in 2020.
listening to a lot of um, folks who are in the tabletop RPG space, especially talking about sensitivity and cultural sensitivity, and taking a look at things that, looking at it and being like, could this be better? Or what am I getting at by including this sort of overarching plot thread with this region? Um, does this serve the story of the setting? Um, and if it's just there to say, yeah, this is just there for badness, that's not good enough. Especially if it's for sensitive topics, like that's not a good enough reason. Um, so there'll be some big changes. We will. I don't want to say we're not going to retcon stuff in um the on the show, but some stuff will adapt. Um, and for the show, we're gonna do more of like a season type approach. Um, so
Hmm.
that'll kind of change the tone a little bit.
Yeah.
So, uh, but yeah, to actually get a rough draft that I could potentially have some editors and some consultants take a look at and see if there's anything that I missed, if there are any red flags, that even after all these edits to say, hey, Sean, you've done a great job thus far, but here's some problems that, need to be addressed. Because ultimately, the whole point is to entertain and make people happy. And if there's something in there that causes problems, that's not doing its job, right? And I know you can't please everybody, but you can also listen to other people who, quite frankly, have much more experience doing this than I do, um, and who are doing it professionally, um, and making it the best that it can be. So, yeah,
Yeah.
boy.
Oh goodness.
All right, so
Mm.
that's it for our resolutions. Um, so so that's sort of macro scale. Now we're gonna bring it back into micro scale with Questlog. All right. Once again, I'm gonna go first with this one
Yes.
because my goals aren't changing. I only got one of
Yeah.
them done. So last
Hmm.
week I said color chapter one comic. item icon for Glory and Pie Cake, and I'm gonna upgrade the Queen's Conservatory in Warcraft. Uh, did not do 1 and 3 of that. Um, but I have been using Procreate on the iPad to so it's not finalizing item icons, but it's sort of getting rough sort of color versions of them on the iPad so that I
Nice.
can, import them into Clip Studio or Photoshop, um, and then have like a working image to refine there. Um, so I did get that. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, coloring the comic, wasn't available to do that because of the holiday. And the Queen's Conservatory, oh man, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna farm a bunch of anima with the mission tables and stuff. And then I forgot that they cost anima to run missions. So I should have only been running missions that get me anima, and I didn't, and I ended up coming back to the game with less anima than when I last played. So I actually set myself
Oh,
back.
that's
So
rough.
I still have about 2,000 anima to gather before I can upgrade that. And continue on my journey to get cool spirit forms. That's really all that's for. So,
Cool.
Courtney,
Yes.
what about you and your ostriches?
So I had one main goal was to get ostriches. I am not there yet. It is much later in game
Courtney, what do you
than
mean? You've put 30 hours into the game.
yeah, I'm only on day 23 of winter 1. That being said, I have not been doing nothing. I have made a lot of progress. Um, I literally just tonight, like as of tonight, I completed the vault, the fish tank, the boiler room, and that first like playroom in the community center. And I only have a few things left for the pantry and the bulletin board. Um, and so I wanted to talk about there's a new community board outside of Mayor Lewis's house that gives you an option of two different quests,
Hmm.
kind of like those tasks that you can find outside of Pierre's,
Yeah.
only these are much bigger. So you have much longer to do them.
Okay.
Um, Usually they start at about a week to complete. Some of them take uh, up to a full season. Um, and so when you only get to choose one of them of the two that are offered at any time. So if they're both a 7-day task, and you choose one, you can't go back and finish the other one. Um, but that's okay. Um, so the only time when I found that that's kind of an issue is when there was one that was for 28 days and one that was 7, and I said, "Oh, I'll do the 7-day one first, do that quick." And I couldn't go back and do the 28-day one. Um,
Hmm.
you do not know the full details of everything. Um, until you choose to accept one. You just basically know how long and generally what they're looking for and who is looking for it. Um,
Oh, that's
one,
that's bad juju. That's
it's interesting.
that's you
Yeah.
don't sign contracts before you know the full details.
Well, I mean, for two of them, I was able to complete a couple of them in like a day. One of them was, and I've noticed in the last few seasons since it started, that because I think it came in summer.
Hmm.
Um, but I've noticed over the last couple of seasons that there is usually like if Demetrius is asking is asking for help to reduce the local fish population. He wants you to catch a certain number of fish in a certain number of in like, 20 ocean fish or river fish or pond fish or whatever. And
Sweet.
it's not
That
a
is my kind of
specific
quest.
Yeah, I picked the one for the ocean fish and I completed it in a day.
Yeah.
Um, because fishing is okay once you're able to actually get past the basic rod. Um, and so like Linus, I just did a quest that was Linus was asking to help clean up the trash. Um, and so I didn't know how many pieces I had to pick up. Um, but it was just 20 pieces of trash.
Okay.
So I set my crab traps and then I was able to finish that in time. But like Robin has asked for 1,000 pieces of wood, um,
Wow.
1,000 pieces of stone is a big one. And that's why you have a longer time
Yeah.
frame to get those.
So
Because I
so
think
what do you get when you complete these quests?
lots of gold.
You get
The
lots of money.
last,
Okay.
yes. Yes, I've gotten a I wanna say around an average of 2,000 gold
Okay.
for
Yeah. So
completing
big
these.
payouts.
Yes. Yes, so big payouts. So I really like that community board for those bigger quests. Um, I just got into the Skull Cavern, because I completed and got the buses running so I could go out to the desert. I did reach the bottom of the mines, in the regular mines. I haven't been able to get past the flying skulls to get the golden scythe um, off of the quarry, but I am working on that. I just need to
Yeah.
level
You
level a
have
few
here in the
things.
show notes something about chicken item.
Yes. So um, the 2 nights ago, I was introduced to this is I don't know if I'd call it a mod or a hack or what, but there is a uh
There are
what's the way to
mods
put
for
it's
starters.
not really a mod though because it's just you buy chickens and you name them you name them a certain thing and when you purchase them those items go into your inventory. um
Oh, yeah, I've heard of this before. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes, yes, so like
Yeah, it's like an item
you
duplication thing.
yeah, so you name it like a square bracket,
Yeah.
645 and square closed square bracket, and you can do up to two item numbers.
Oh, is this what
And
you're
you
talking
name
about
the
for iridium sprinklers in year 1?
yes, that's how I
Cheater.
got my Iridian sprinklers.
Cheater.
Is it really?
It is.
Is it really?
It is.
I don't care.
It's
Um,
considered an exploit. Like, not that anybody
exploitation is
cares
not
because it's a single
cheating.
player game, but, like,
Yeah,
that's an exploit.
exploitation is not cheating.
It is, though.
But yes, so I have been introduced to that. Um, I did get a few iridium sprinklers. They're set up and ready for strawberry season, aka spring, because that was one thing that I did do in spring was bought as many strawberry seeds as I could afford,
Yeah. I mean,
uh,
that's typical.
because strawberries.
Yep. And then you
Um,
save them up for next year. Yeah.
yep. And actually, what I did, I just with completing one of the bundles, I got the seed maker. So I saved a whole bunch of my seeds, a whole bunch of my strawberries, and uh, it took me like 2 days to transfer everything.
Yeah.
Like doing it at night after I was done all my other stuff. Um, took me about 2 days to get all of my seeds for strawberries. So I don't have as many as I would like,
Yeah.
but I'm going into year 2 looking pretty good. I also just did the 5-star event with Linus. So
Cool.
I feel pretty good about that.
All right. That is
So
gonna.
I'm still working on getting towards the ostriches. That is still my goal cuz
Yep.
I still have a lot to do, but it's a little bit less right now.
Yeah. So that is gonna wrap things up. I will be back possibly New Year's Eve with some Hades. I don't know what time yet. It is dependent on whether My wife wants to stay up uh, to, I don't know. I don't know if they're doing the ball drop
They
for New
are.
Year's Eve.
They are.
Uh, so I don't know if she wants to stay up for that. If she doesn't, there will be a Hades stream. Friday, we'll be streaming Stardew Valley. And then Saturday, we'll be streaming Hades again. So be prepared for some fast paced uh, fighting our way out of the underworld, interspersed with starting a new patch 1.5 file. So there will be a lot of voting in the chat on what sort of stuff I do. So like what kind of farm I pick. Um, you know, if there's enough interest, who I should try and give presents to as a romantic interest, who I should give presents to try and just be my best friend of the NPCs that are not romanceable. Um,
Linus.
Willie is the correct answer because he just lives in a shack down on the dock. Um, so things like that. Whether to get a dog or a cat. I mean, even
Or to
uh,
get any pet at all.
no, you have to have a pet.
No,
Um,
you don't.
but you have to have a pet.
But you
Uh,
don't.
this is not a choice, Courtney. Um, so yeah, so we'll have that. It's up on the schedule with the exception of the New Year's Eve stream. Um, so yeah, uh, and going forward on Sundays for patrons and subscribers on Twitch, there will be a straw poll that goes out with a list of games that you can vote on for me to play each week. So, and I will pick from the results of that. Basically, whatever gets the most votes. So I'm picking between those two because we only got 3 votes. But uh, basically, that voting will be open from Sunday through Wednesday. So that way I have enough time to like make the stream schedule um, before podcast on Wednesday. So with that, you can find more stuff from 8-Bit Adventures on 8-bitadventures.com. Over there, you can find comics, artwork, podcast streams, and more. If you like all that stuff, you can support by becoming a subscriber here on Twitch or a patron over at patreon.com/8bitadventures. Patrons get early access to comics, access to patrons only comics like Speedy and Monty.
Yeah.
Um, access $2 patrons get access to Tales of Jamora playtest content. Um, and a discount on merch. So our opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. You can find his stuff over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. And with that, we are done with this dumpster fire of a year. So, as always, have fun, everyone. Happy gaming. Enjoy your pie cake. And as far as the podcast goes, we will see you in 2021.
Bye, everybody.